Welcome to JSA Europe, together with the Green Data Movement for this quarter's live event focused on European digital infrastructure sustainability. I'm Eyjólfur Magnús Kristinsson, and joining me today is Magnús Kristinsson, CEO of atNorth. And Magnús, thank you for joining me from Iceland. Hopefully, well, it will be cold there, but it looks sunny.
It's actually quite sunny. The temperature outside says -15 actually on my computer. I don't know if it's the correct number or not, but it's pretty cold in Iceland, and actually it's colder than what it is normally on this part of the year. But it's very conducive for our data centers.
Yeah, well, it is something that's happening across Europe, and I mean, it's for the non-sayers of climate change. It's nothing to do with climate change. But jokes aside, I mean, Magnús, let's talk about the Nordics as a powerhouse for data center development and digital infrastructure development overall. What would you say makes the Nordics a preferred place to deploy data centers? And of course, we've already touched on the temperature side of things, but what else makes the Nordics a good landing place for data centers?
Well, overall and very briefly, I think that the combination of abundant and affordable renewable energy, the climate, obviously, so the relatively low temperatures, stable political and economic environment, excellent infrastructure, and the overall strong focus on sustainability in the Nordics makes the region an increasingly attractive location for data centers.
Interesting. But I mean, so outside of the Nordics, we are always talking about challenges. And as you know, there's quite a lot of them. There's power, which is not a problem in the Nordics. And there's a few other problems going on in Europe. Are there any specific problems to the Nordic region or barriers to developments?
I mean, obviously not a specific problem to the Nordics maybe, but I think most businesses and not least data centers are challenged by high inflation rates at the moment. But I would say in the Nordics, although the Nordics are packed with abundance of renewable energy, we are seeing a significant challenge currently on transmission and distribution networks capacity. Why? I mean, the region is popular, and many companies are there to use the renewable energy. And the situation on the transmission and distribution networks has intensified significantly since the war in Ukraine.
Okay, but so how does it work in terms of, for example, you got a footprint across 3 countries in the Nordics. How does it work to build cross-border? Is it easy to build across different parts of the Nordics? Is it easy to bring a single platform within 3, 4, 5 countries of the region? Or is there still some neighborly challenges to it?
There are always some challenges. I mean, we are currently building in Finland, our 3rd data center in Finland. There are language barriers there, as the language in the rest of the Nordics is, well, we can understand each other to an extent. Finnish is very different, so that is, of course, a challenge in itself. But I would say the legal framework, how people think, and the both work ethics and business ethics are very similar within the region. So it's not a major challenge, I would say. So cross-border is always a challenge to an extent, but within the Nordic region, I would say that it, at least for us that live and breathe in the region, it's a minor challenge.
Interesting. And then, so Magnús, atNorth, you were born in 2009, not 19, 2009. And then you're backed by Partners Group, which is a big investor in the data center space. Just before we jump on the call, we're actually talking about that your portfolio is bigger than the last time I looked at it. And that's because it became really hard to track everyone in this space because there's so much happening everywhere across the continent. But talk us through what's happening at atNorth nowadays. So you've got Sweden, Finland, and Iceland. You've got 5 operating data centers, 2 under construction. Talk us through where the company is at the moment in terms of operations, who the clients are, what's the client base, what's happening at atNorth.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, since the acquisition by Partners Group, a lot of things have changed. Mostly, I mean, we have a very different muscle power behind our visions. Currently, we operate 5 data centers. We operated 3 data centers at the time of the acquisition. And two new sites are being constructed at the moment, one in Iceland and another one in Finland. We kind of segregate our customer streams into 3 categories. It's the local enterprises in each of the countries we operate in. It's hyperscalers that then normally are, need location in the countries to reach the local population, and international enterprises, which is currently our by far largest market. International enterprises, mostly European or US based, typically consider the Nordics as a great location for HPC and AI workloads. So basically non-sensitive, or latency insensitive workloads, which is also the reason for why we have built considerable expertise in the field of HPC, AI, and similar workloads.
I was actually going to ask you about that. Have you seen an increase in customer requests for capacity able to deal with things like life sciences, of course, AI, as you mentioned, but really, really heavy stuff, rendering, even production companies coming to you for rendering movies, especially animation movies, which take so much space. Have you seen an increase of that, especially during COVID? Have you seen an increase from the COVID period up till now?
In life sciences?
Yeah, life sciences, things that really require a lot of computing power, even beyond just storing data.
Yeah, I would say in general, we have seen a huge increase, more after the energy crisis in Europe and elsewhere in the world than in relation to the pandemic. We have a few clients in life science, biotech, genomics, but we are seeing a continuously growing demand for compute from industries like finance and automotive as well.
Okay, and then so Magnus, so we've already mentioned that there's 2 data centers being built at the moment. What are the plans for the future? What more data centers we're going to have? You still are not in all Nordic countries. There's still Denmark to go, and Norway as well. So what's the plan for those 2? What's the plan for the ones that you're in? And will you go outside of the Nordics eventually? A lot of questions in there.
Yeah, I know. So currently we have a pan-Nordic expansion strategy, which means that we intend to build at least 1 data center in each of the 5 Nordic countries.
Okay.
And that includes the countries where we are not located in currently, which are Denmark and Norway. We are actively scouting for sites in both of those countries, and our goal is to announce the first site in each of those countries already in 2023. Hopefully, we will succeed on that front. But we are also planning expansions in the countries where we are currently located. We are currently building our 3rd site in Iceland, our 3rd site in Finland, and we are planning for our second site in Stockholm, which we currently are anticipating to be ready for customers already in 2026. Then on top of all this, we have a strong site scouting team that has a large land bank with options for both small and large build-to-suit projects throughout all of the Nordics.
Interesting. But so you're going to stick to the Nordics mostly for now?
I think we've got our, and I get this question a lot actually. The Nordics is our home ground for the moment. We have our hands full with customer demand for the Nordic region, and what the future will bring, I can't entirely state now, but our focus is on the Nordic market.
Interesting. I must confess, when you said 2023, I did look at the calendar because I was like, oh yes, it's only March still. It feels like we've already been throughout the entire year.
I feel the same.
It's how active this space is. But Magnus, so if people want to find out more about atNorth and get in touch, and maybe discuss especially things around artificial intelligence, how can they do so?
I would advise anyone to visit our webpage atNorth.com. We have a very active LinkedIn profile as well. On both platforms, you can find web chat and email addresses. So I encourage everyone that wants to know more about our company and our offerings to visit our webpage or our LinkedIn profile.
Very interesting. I mean, the Nordics have always been quite an exciting region to look into, and especially since they start booming in the mid-2010s. It sounds like ages ago. It wasn't ages ago. It's only 8 years ago. Magnus, thank you so much for talking to me. And as for our viewers, thank you for joining and for watching JSA TV Live. Don't forget to check our social channels for more content. Until next time, happy networking.
Thank you.